Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick talk on this Burgman 650 water pump that I've actually done. So it's a 650, and if anyone's wondering which cluster it is, it's on here. So anything 05, 06 in that gen. So this is not the exact model, but it's got all the other bells and whistles. The fancy gearbox, CVT box with Tiptronic. So here we are. I couldn't find any videos on the water pump, interestingly enough, especially to do with this water pump leak. So just a quick update actually. So I've previously had to do work on the radiator core that had a leak on the backside on where the fan was. As lovely as these motorcycles are, there's a lot of Tupperware that's got to come off, and the labor and that kind of thing. So if anyone is doing it themselves, I'd probably say it's a lot easier to work on a naked or even a sports, even a Hayabusa or ZX14, ZX12. But these maxi bikes are a little bit fiddly to work on, to be honest. So here we are. So this thing was actually leaking around about here at the bottom part of the water pump. So ended up getting a new seal, and I'll show you what the seal looked like. Another thing, I don't know if anyone else has had issues with the fuel tank, this thing, where the clip breaks off on the actual flip. I mean, one day it was actually my fault. We actually knocked it off, and ever since I've been repairing it, and sort of every now and then it'll fall off, and even the epoxy glues seem to be not doing such a good job. Okay, so this is the part number for this kit. So it's 17418-10G10. And I mean, I got this in Australasia. I had to wait about 3 to 4 weeks. I could have just got it off eBay, but it wasn't something that was available on the shelf. Even Australia, but eventually it did come from Australia. But like I said, it was just a long wait, really long wait. Frustrating, but that's the way that it goes, and it's not a cheap part to get hold of anyway. Anyway, so I'll show you quickly how this thing mounts. So you've got your inlet from the top. There's a thin little this thing here, not the easiest to get hold of. I'll just move it around there. Not easiest. So you got to get into it from up here with a long nose plier, and then you've got the slightly wider this thing that goes back to the engine block. Again, not the easiest to this thing. It's got a heat shroud on there, so when you're getting it back, you actually got to make sure that the heat shroud actually rotates back to the right way, so when it's hard up against the engine, it doesn't burn. What else is there? Okay, so with regard to the bolts, so you'll notice that I've got 2 bolts in there, and I'll just take the camera, make that a little bit wider. So it's what I will call, let's say, the 4 o'clock position or 5 o'clock position, and one there on, let's say, the 11 o'clock position. So those 2 are not actually bolts that comes standard on the bike. Now this may have been done before, but I doubt that a water pump has been touched on this bike. But in case anyone else comes across it, so these are the original bolts that come with the bike. So if you're looking at the water pump, this is basically the way that it goes in. So it's sort of like an L shape. Okay, so that's the top one. I showed you the return back to the radiator core, and this is to the bottom of the radiator core. Okay, so these bolts here, so these ones that come here on the side is what I called, let's say, the 5 o'clock and 11 o'clock position, or thereabout. You'll see that it comes with these 2 little stupid screws on there. May just be my one, or I don't know the others. Not the easiest to get hold of, and they're quite they can be stripped. So you got to be really, really, really careful. So the big long ones, I'm just gonna pop all these in, just to give you reference and on how they actually mount. Okay, and I'm just gonna flip it over. Okay, that's gonna fall out. Maybe I'll just lift it up, so you can have. So that's basically the way that they mount. So you can see there isn't a lot of thread on those screws, but you can't put in a longer one because there isn't a lot of space where it actually goes into thread. So you're probably looking about 5 mil on the other side of that mount. Okay, so I actually happened to scratch into my box of Kawasaki and Suzuki bits, and I was able to find other bolts, not with the same. I mean, they obviously got the same pattern, but now I'm going to have a mix of 10 mil and 8 mil bolts. But at least I can get a a socket on it, as opposed to messing around with a tiny little screwdriver or trying to get a little adapter, Phillips head onto the adapter to make it fit. Like I said, it's not the most pleasant job. It's when you got big hands, yeah, there just isn't enough space here to get tools in. So that's something that's just worth keeping in mind. If you can, do what I've done and replace them, and that way you can torque them all evenly as well. I mean, there's no way you can torque a screwdriver head, especially when you got it on a very, very short neck. That's a recipe to leak. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the water pump here quickly. So when I got the new one and I put the new one on, it was still leaking. Yes, you heard me right. The new one was still leaking, but then I actually put a little bit of grease, a little bit, just to in there, and I think that may have just made the problem worse. So I'm going to put it on dry. So here's the one dry, and I, at the time when it leaked, and I haven't been riding this bike now probably for about 2 or 3 months, because I just didn't have time to get it done, and the weather, we had a cyclone and flooding and whatnot, so there just wasn't time to fiddle around with this. So what happened was I ended up going and getting some RTV gasket. Now, anyone that's dealt with Hondas and Suzukis and so, especially with Hondas, you normally get the RTV silicone, high temp silicone that goes for it, and you can normally, they designed so that you can actually get the silicone in them quite nicely and go around the holes and this, and then seat them in. So that doesn't work with these Burgmans. As you can see, there's not a lot of material. That's the end of it. And that's pretty much more than 90% of this housing is actually like that. So, if you're going to running the bead of silicone, then you're going to have to do that really, really nicely. You're going to have to the same. But while it's still setting, and then to get it back on there, yeah, I to be honest, I can't see this being an option for this type of motorcycle. It looks like you got to go with the gasket, with the rubber gasket that comes with it. So that's what I'm going to end up doing, and I'm hoping that this thing is not warped, that this water pump housing is not warped. Otherwise, then that's pretty much going to mean replacing the entire water pump, which I'm not too happy about getting back in here. So yeah, like I say, these are lovely bikes. They're beautiful to ride, but man, they really are a bother to work on. To be honest, I really think that they are overhyped. Give me a Hayabusa or ZX14 or something any day of this, and I'll work on anything. But this year, I tell you, in the last year or so that I've owned it, the amount of work that I've had to do with it, let's just say it has not been exactly a pleasure. Normally, working on a bike, and that gives, it's your moment where you de-stress and you're relaxing and you're enjoying it. Yeah, not so much on these ones. So that's just my 2 cents worth on there. I mean, each to their own. I mean, some people might really love working on these things and think it's the next, it's one of the best motorcycles out there. Nah, I think give me a clutch any day. But yeah, so that's my take. Anyway, enjoy.